Cheers, darling.
Cheers.
Oh, you got it down. We'll make a Brit out of you yet.
Oh, I'm so excited to become a Brit.
The enthusiasm is obvious.
Good evening. This is Brother Bro here with Luke Heerfeld of the Luke Heerfeld YouTube channel.
Hey up, guys. How are y'all doing?
We are roomies. We are palling out, and we are going to talk about Kinds of Kindness. The film was directed by Lanthimos. Everyone knows who he is. Mm-hmm. Now, we can definitively say there are two distinct modes of Lanthimos. There's one mode where he's working with Tony McNamara. He doesn't touch the script, maybe some kind of production value, in, a period setting. And then there's another mode with Anthology Philippou as his co-writer. Yeah. Their collaborations include Killing of a Sacred Deer, The Lobster. I think they go all the way back to Dogtooth. Yeah. These films are contemporary setting. Oftentimes, the production design is extremely sparse, and it seems almost to be like mocking conventions of society and like the middle and upper class lifestyle, just by like how awkward everything feels and the strange like politeness.
If you're going into this expecting like Poor Things or The Favorite, you're probably going to be a little disappointed. I still had a good time with this. Mm-hmm. Like, for me, it's not like top tier Yorgos Lanthimos, but I did think it was a good watch, though. I laughed a fair bit throughout. It is an anthology movie as well, so it's 3 stories in the film, and they're all sort of interconnected, and it does sort of leave you with a lot of food for thought to try and figure out how they are all sort of connected after you leave, and that's what I like. We watched this movie last night, and I'm still like piecing it together in my mind, and I kind of enjoying that leaves you with a lot to think about. I think it's one of those movies I think will be better on a second watch.
See, we might diverge here, actually, so this is fun. From my watch, I felt like there wasn't really anything to dive into, and I feel like the film doesn't want you to read into the connections between the stories. So, I haven't really attempted to do it because I felt like I'm not really going to get much out of that exercise. Having thought about it a little bit, do you feel like there is something there, like when you really dive in, or you just kind of suspect that maybe there's something that you're not seeing?
There's only like one thing that really connects everything together, and that's like one character, and that's true. That's the RMF character.
This is such a hard piece to put together in my mind. Like, this is actually, it is true, there's one element which is connected, especially through the titles, and it's this periphery character who is,
barely has any dialogue. RMF dies, RMF flies, and RMF eats a sandwich.
The 3 chapters of the film.
Yes. There are like a few little bits and bobs that connect all 3 of the stories. There was like characters injuring themselves in order to get the attention of other characters. It didn't ever really feel like there was a proper through line through all 3. And if there is, maybe that's why a second viewing would be better for me to pick up on that.
I feel like these were conceived very much as shorts. Like, it seems like from the get-go, because the plot in each one is pretty thin. Like, they're very simple. And I think what the film's doing is almost challenging you to like read deeper into it, but I really think it's like not doing anything. And I'm fine that people are going to disagree with that. This is just where I stand on it, because even in a film like Killing of the Sacred Deer, I don't think there is a message being communicated. And I think there's an interesting thing with these Lanthimos Philippou films where they lack a very key element of story, which is truth and like resonating with truth, the audience trying to find truth through a film. They're kind of like anti you doing that, because the characters often reach these conclusions that for us don't resonate with our truth. And actually, like, these characters within their worlds are pretty normal. Their behaviors are ordinary, but to us, we're like, what the fuck are we watching? Like, it seems normal, but it's not. Something's off. Within the first minute of the film, you have Willem Dafoe asking Jesse Plemons, like, did you have sex with your wife last night? Like, what time did you have sex with her? And it's just like
Anna Karenina.
Yeah.
Yes.
We seek truth in films, and oftentimes we only like the films if we can agree with the truth. Or at least the story is set up in a way where by the end we can see how like this is the truth that the character arrived at. And I don't think these are exceptions for these movies. Like, we can see how the character gets to live a certain kind of truth, but it's very backwards.
Yeah.
And so in these films, we're not really supposed to resonate with the conclusions that the characters make, and maybe there's something there with it's intending you to wrestle with that as like an antithesis to life.
I'm on board for the weirdness of Yorgos.
Yes.
Like, this is like the old school early days.
Yes.
It's very darkly funny, it's weird, but you're kind of like fascinated at the same time. I like those sort of oddball sensibilities that he brings.
Which of the 3 films was your favorite?
Definitely the first. Like,
I agree that the first was
the first
best.
was the strongest. It literally kicks off with Eurythmics' Sweet Dreams blasting. Like, the critics won't clap for the Cannes logo, but they'll start clapping when Sweet Dreams comes on.
Yeah, everyone was like ready to have a great time.
They were down for it, yeah.
I was ready to have a great time. I was like, let's go. This is going to be such a blast.
Yes.
And the music like sets you up with that expectation.
It just had so much like bizarre moments in it that just really like the tennis racket for one thing just had me like slapping my thigh. And so I was like, what is happening?
There were some really good, I don't know if you can call them jokes, but moments that had the audience like, really laughing.
Yeah.
And there's especially like one excellent one in the second film, which I'm not going to spoil. I found the first one possibly the funniest, and part of the reason is that Willem Dafoe is so expertly utilized here. Yes. And there's something about his presence in every film that just immediately brings me joy.
Yeah.
And you could feel the audience like getting excited and like almost giddy that Willem Dafoe is on screen, and then like him just sitting there. The first like 2 seconds he's on screen, he's just sitting at a desk, and you're like, woo, like Willem Dafoe, yay! And you already like him.
Like there are just certain shots where he's just like staring Jesse Plemons down, and it's one of the funniest things I've seen.
He's just so perfect in Yorgos films. Yeah, I think he should be, in every single one, sprinkled at least somewhere.
Move over, Emma Stone. It's Willem Dafoe's turn now.
So that was actually my favorite performance out of the entire anthology. Was his
was Willem Dafoe in the first. Mm-hmm. I think my favorite actor in it, I think, was Jesse Plemons. Pretty much every one of the actors is in every 3 segments, apart from like Hunter Schafer's only in the last one. Jesse Plemons did a really good job bringing 3 very distinctly different characters to the screen. Like everyone felt so different. He's the most chameleon-like, I think, of the actors we got.
Yeah, Jesse Plemons is also the lead in the first 2, so he's the most prominent. He does the everyman thing very well. He kind of looks the part. He can also convey a very strange and eerie awkwardness.
Yes. He can be very intense, but also he can be very creepy. And he can also be very charming as well when he needs to. So he's one of the most versatile actors I think we've got working at the moment.
Yeah, he reminds me of Philip Seymour Hoffman a bit. The only cast member I felt was a little bit underutilized was Hong Chow.
Oh yeah.
I just wanted to see her be as quirky and strange as Willem Dafoe in that first one. She had
moments in the third one.
Yeah. But her presence in a Lanthimos film, it really made me want to have more from her and get her to do something interesting or explode and
she was a little underutilized.
The whole ensemble is great and just a huge piece of why this film is fun. Overall, we talked about how the audience was super excited for the film, and I think they went into it with a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And after the nearly 3 hours, I think it's 2 hours and 40 minutes, I do feel like people came out a little bit underwhelmed overall.
Yeah.
One reason is just because the runtime is very long, and to have 3 different films where there's not really a crescendo and there's not like a heightened point in any of the 3 films, they're all like pretty leisurely paced. I was definitely feeling that pace by the ending, where I was like, I'm enjoying this less than the first 2, and it might only be because this is the third film.
Yeah, I thought the third chapter was stronger than the second as well. It's kind of brought it back up a little bit. That's why this movie is at a disadvantage for the average moviegoers. Just if you want a consistent story that's point A to point B, this is more chop and change, so it's harder to get invested in it as a film overall when it's only 3 different stories, each of different quality, I think.
Yeah, it's the most like Killing of a Sacred Deer to me. I forget if I said that already. But I did like Killing of a Sacred Deer more. I found that more dark and ominous. I think I do prefer it, them generally as a films.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate that these films felt like bonus content from Lanthimos and his co-writer and all of the actors. It didn't seem like it took so much time to make these films. Like they weren't spending years and years on it. Like Poor Things probably took an enormous amount of effort and like a massive team. And these films, with the exceptions of a few scenes, they could be made by anybody. Like student filmmakers could have made these films.
For sure.
I kind of like that it goes back to the basics of just making a story that is intriguing, if only for like the eeriness, the performances, and the writing, and just strong direction that communicates tone very clearly and very uniquely. I don't think these are great movies, but I think they're watchable and they're fun. It's like a nice little side snack.
Little after dinner. Not an amuse-bouche.
After dinner delight.
Yeah, an after dinner mint, if you will.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
After dinner Yorgos mint.
A little cup of pudding. It could have been a little more of a romp. It was funny, but it didn't have like a whole lot of moments where people were laughing.
It had its moments.
It had some really good moments that are very memorable.
That were very funny.
But I do think, they could amp it up a little bit if they're going to do more projects like these. It didn't feel like it was advancing their collaboration. It was kind of like staying in place. Shout out to the costume work in the film.
Jesse Plemons came out in that turtleneck as well. I was like, choice. I
also want to shout out the score from Jersten Fendrix. Which, kind of like the filmmaking, which is very bare bones and stripped back, a lot of it's minimalist piano that is just very eerie, and it goes very well with the tone and matching like what's happening on screen.
What was really cool about this one is that they sort of used choirs to like say. There was that one bit where they were going, no.
Yeah, that happened actually throughout the film.
No.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
Which just adds more comedy to it.
I'm really loving the Jerskin-Fendrix collaboration,
Yeah.
and I suspect this will continue throughout his career. So I would give this film a 7 out of 10.
I think when it came out, it was more of a 7. Now I feel like I'm more of a 6.5. I did enjoy it. I could happily watch it again. Yeah, this just isn't a top-tier Lanthimos film for me, even though I did enjoy it.
And then do you want to speak on Oscars, because some people have been predicting this film
People have been asking us on Twitter, haven't they?
Right, and they're asking,
is this an Oscars movie? No. Sorry, this is the thing, the common denominator with Yorgos films getting nominated is usually when he's adapting a script by Tony McNamara.
And they've also been period films.
And more
They've been
palatable.
more crowd pleasers.
Yeah,
they haven't been 3 separate movies.
I know The Lobster got a screenplay nomination,
Yeah.
but I don't know if no, they're not going to go for this.
I just think there's no chance.
Yeah.
I don't even think the actors could come along. Just don't think so. Thank you for joining us on Tea Time with Luke and Brother Bro.
Oh, thank you so much, pal. It's been my pleasure.
Cheers.
Yes. Oh, you got it down.
Some wonderful London fog from the UK itself. From London himself.
Yes.
That's you.
Literally brought the tea bags with me on the plane. Yeah.
Is this a London fog?
No, it's actually Yorkshire tea. That's the real tea. That's,
Okay, don't tell
That's
him
a
that.
gentleman's tea.
Don't tell him. And then, yeah.
What actor do you want to see star in a Yorgos Lanthimos film?